Hey, guys, I'm Pastor Sean Strickland here with my super cute husband, Pastor Edwin Strickland, and we are here for Relationships 101, and we want to know where you're watching from. Hashtag live and tell us where you're watching from. We want all the YouTube people. Listen, we've got amazing engagement on YouTube. Shout out to all of the people who've been connecting and engaging on YouTube, but tonight we'd like to challenge you to comment. We're super excited to have you here. We need you to tag somebody. Listen, we are all about teaching people how to walk in love, live by faith, and experience God's prosperity in every area of life. That is the motto of our church because that is the motto of our life. So when we're teaching Relationships 101, whether we are teaching it, generally about any relationship, and even though this is aimed at marriage, this is actually skills that you can learn here for any relationship. We do that because we want the people of God to prosper in any area of life. I made a post yesterday, babe, and I was talking about the guy who became the psychiatrist because his mother didn't have the psychiatric help that she needed, and she suffered, and he became a psychiatrist so that other little kids wouldn't suffer like he suffered, right? In a lot of ways, you and we have created things to help meet a need that we had. Yep. A lot of what we do in Relationships 101 is to hopefully be a blessing and equip a couple to avoid some of the things that we had early in our marriage, not because we didn't love each other, but because we didn't have the skills. Right. And so that's why we need you. A young couple, somebody who's thinking about getting married, right? Most of the time when people work with us or they do the work, they decide they want to be married. But there is this one time where this couple, after going through our marriage workbook, went, we don't think that this is for us. And they both went on and married other people. And as far as we know, they were pretty happy, right? So the truth of it is we want you to win in your relationships, but it takes more than love. And yes, as a pastor, I'm going to say this, it takes more than prayer. You're going to have to hear God and then go get the skills you need in order to be happily married, right? So let us know where you're watching from. Let's see who we have. We have Maumelle in the house. We have Winston-Salem, North Carolina. That's the Leaks in the house. We're super excited.
I saw Chicago was in the house.
Chicago was in the house. And so we're just super excited to have you guys because we are going to have a hot topic today.
We are.
It's a hot topic. And the hot topic is, we need you to love the broadcast. I didn't say that. Touch the screen, love the broadcast. If you're a first timer, let us know. We need everybody, hearts, fire, love. Why? Because all of that impacts the analytics. But I got to tell you this topic, because I felt like that when Pastor Rick picked his topic, that he just wanted to create some heat. I felt like he did, right? Because the topic is why men shut down, why women shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, when he sent me the notes for this, because I saw the notes before I saw the graphic, I was like, oh, he want to be messy tonight, but in a way that's going to transform lives. And so I'm super, super excited about it. So you still have time to tag somebody. You still have time to tell us where you're watching from. You still have time to take your phone and text somebody and tell them to jump in. And you still have time to be a part of Relationships 101. But before we jump in this, because we're waiting on people, tell us a little bit what was on your mind when you picked this topic.
So if you remember, those of you that were with us at the last Relationships 101, the November edition, we talked about the silent breakup.
Yes.
And when we were talking about the silent breakup, we talked about how people literally break up before they ever break up. We went through all of the different scenarios that happen, how people get misunderstood. When one person is misunderstood, they can become defensive or they shut down. And really, this is kind of a natural progression of that, right? We talk about relationships, and you've read the best-selling book many of us have, that men are from Venus and women are from Mars, or maybe men are from Mars and women are from Venus, or maybe nobody knows where men or women come from. But the idea is that there are some inherent differences by nature and by nurture for how men and women operate. Now, again, you're going to say this later. I'm going to say it now. That is not to say every man operates the same way. It's not to say that every woman operates the same way. Men and women are not monolithic. They are not the same. All black men aren't the same. All white men aren't the same. All Hispanic men aren't the same. And that's the same thing for women. They're not all the same. What we're sharing with you is what we have learned over the course of our relationship in working with literally hundreds, maybe even thousands of couples after we got it right, because we spent a lot of time not getting it right. So this idea of why men shut down, why women shut up until they don't, really is a conversation around what happens in the psyche of a relationship that will cause someone to repeat this cycle, that they will repeat this. I shut down, somebody blows up, somebody shuts up, somebody pulls away, and nothing ever gets solved. And so I'm a firm believer in having as many tools in your toolkit as you can. Listen, if you got a friend or family member, I don't care if they're engaged, if they're married, if they're on the verge of divorce, if they're single, if they even think they ever want to be in a relationship, or maybe you just have a hard time functioning with the opposite sex, you need to tag them and let them know to come over here and hear this real, relevant, and raw conversation that we're going to have tonight about why do men shut down? Because a lot of men do shut down. Maybe you don't, but it's a lot of men who do. Why do women just eventually shut up until they don't? Because a lot of women do. Society tries to even tell them sometimes or nurture them into this idea of being quiet. And you talked about this before, the going along to get along syndrome. So we want to talk about why men shut down and why women shut up, and how we can understand the cycle so that we can break the cycle.
Absolutely.
So I knew the title would get people's attention, but I really didn't do it to be petty or messy. Not this time.
Not this time.
No, not this time.
Unfortunately, you have such a history of petty that we can't call it.
Well, and that's good because you thought I was going to be petty, so you showed up. But you're here now. So you might as well go ahead and not only hear some wisdom and some information that can absolutely revolutionize the way you deal with relationships. Who knows? I might throw some petty in here before we get done, because I do have a little bit in the bag. So just hang in there with us.
So we are ready to do it. If you're ready, say we are ready.
Yes.
We
Keep
are
tagging,
ready.
keep sharing.
Keep doing all the things, right? So tonight this is Relationships 101. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight we are stepping into a conversation that almost every relationship wrestles with, and it's not because people are bad, and it's not because people don't love each other, but it's because their emotional styles collide.
Absolutely. Think about it like this. Have you ever been in an argument with someone that you really love, but then you walked away thinking, how in the world did we get here? And sometimes, again, one moment you're talking, you're having a conversation, and something leads to an argument. The next moment, somebody decides that they're just going to shut down and not respond. And then somebody else doesn't like that. And before you know it, they blow up. And now both of you feel unheard and unsafe.
Yeah, because in so many relationships, one partner is going to shut down while the other person shuts up, and neither one of them respond. Those responses lead to healing. One person goes silent to protect themselves. The other goes silent because they have exhausted themselves, and neither silence produces connection.
Now, just pause for a moment. Think about that. Have you ever been on one side of that relationship? You shut down simply for the fact because you know what? The next thing I say is not going to be conducive to this relationship. We're having a discussion about whatever we're talking about, and I've had it up to here with whatever it is that we're talking about. I just decide I ain't gonna say nothing no more. Or you feel like every time I say something, you just twist it and you use it against me. So I'm just gonna shut down. And then have you ever been on the side of that where you just become so exhausted of trying to explain yourself and trying to get your partner to understand that you say, you know what? Okay, you're right. And in essence, what you do is you just shut down. And as Pastor Sean said, if you've been on either side of those, especially if you live in that cycle from time to time, then you know that neither one of those situations produces any kind of connection, and it's not good for a relationship. So tonight, here's the real question that we want you to wrestle with. I want you to think about it, right? Don't think about your partner. Don't think about your friend and what she done told you, what he done told you when you was at the barber shop or at the beauty salon. I want you to think about this for you. If you are a man, I want you to think about this question. Why do I shut down when things get heated? What's my reason? Why do I do that?
And women or people on the other side, because again, somebody's already in the comments said I've been on both sides. So whichever one you relate to, right? Why do women go silent until they don't? Why does it build and build until it erupts?
Because it happens to all of us. So tonight, what we're going to do is we want to expose the emotional patterns that keep couples stuck, keep them stuck in these cycles that they don't even understand. And I think if you and I are honest, there were times early on in our relationship, we didn't want to repeat some cycles, but we repeated a bunch of cycles.
We repeated cycles because we didn't know what was triggering the cycle.
And not only even if we knew, we didn't have the tools at the time
to
absolutely break the cycle. So part of what we want to do tonight is we want to be like that psychologist you talked about. That psychologist you talked about said no one would find a solution for his mom. So he became the solution so the other people didn't have that situation. We want to be your solution. We want to help you to understand why one party shuts down and why one party shuts up. Okay. So,
I think it's important that you say until they don't. Because typically the person who shuts up, they shut up until they explode.
They don't.
Right. So I think it's just not you shut down, we shut up, and then it's kind of over. It's literally like the shut up person becomes the volcano because they don't feel like they were heard. Right.
Because they don't feel like they were heard. They don't feel like they were understood. And then what happens is it comes to a point, as you described, it gets to a breaking point. And we all know, everybody out there knows, nothing good comes out of that breaking point.
Nothing good comes out of it, right? So relationships, they rarely fall apart over big things. Listen, we have counseled so many couples.
So many.
And most of the people who we have counseled are not fighting a big thing. They are fighting little things that over time, 1,000 misunderstandings, 1,000 shutdowns, small silences, and emotional withdrawal that creates distance inch by inch. We understand that who shuts down and who shuts up isn't always based on gender. They're always outliers. It can switch based on the circumstance, because literally in a relationship, there can be on one topic you shut down and on the other topic you shut up, right? We're using men and women because typically men are more likely, they're accused more of just withdrawing, and women are accused more of being quiet until we explode. Right? So that's why we're doing it that way, right? So we've been doing this based on research, our personal experience, and over 20 years of working with counselors, couples. Here's what we have seen. Men tend to shut down. They withdraw, they get quiet, and they move inward. They believe pulling away will reduce the conflict, but in reality, it often increases it. Women tend to shut up, not because they don't have anything else to say.
Lord knows.
But because, wait. I thought we wouldn't.
I told him I was going to give him a little petty.
Oh, okay. Not because they don't have anything to say, but because they've said it so many times and they feel unheard. They silence their needs in the name of peace until the silence becomes too heavy to hold. And what can be interesting in that is that when a man has shut down, right? And then he comes back out of the shell, and then the woman has shut up, but then she explodes. Sometimes to the man, it can feel like it came out of nowhere, but really it came for the woman out of being quiet and hoping that it was going to be addressed, and then it wasn't addressed. And so now it's like World War III, and the guy just asked, could he have a cup of coffee?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Right? So tonight we're going to walk through why this happens, what it creates, and how to build emotional safety so you don't keep repeating the same cycle.
That's good. So if you're keeping notes tonight, she just told you what the expectations are. We want to make sure that you understand why this happens. Okay? Why do people shut down? Why do people shut up? We also want you to know what it creates and how to build the emotional safety net so that you don't keep repeating the cycles, okay? Now, before we go deeper, here's what we're covering. First thing we want to talk about is how emotional wiring shapes conflict.
So true.
Emotional wiring. The second thing we want to talk about is why shutdown actually feels safe to men. Why shutting down feels safe. And then number 3, why silence feels like self-protection many times for women. And then how these patterns collide under stress, and then how to build a safety net instead of distance in the relationship. And then most importantly, we want to talk at the end about how do we break these cycles for good.
For good.
How do we break the chains? So let's get into this. Why does this happen? What is the emotional blueprint that causes men to shut down? Now, again, we're generalizing, but it is generalized based on a lot of anecdotal research we've seen among men that we've worked with, talked with, and been in our families. And we believe that you can generalize this information too. And it may be that it happens to you and you're not a man, and that's fine. But many men, okay, many of us, regardless of your ethnicity, really, were raised we're not raised with the freedom to feel or to express how we feel. From childhood, many of us can attest to the fact that we heard messages like, you need to be strong, you need to man up, you need to toughen up, don't cry, or don't let them see you cry. And so over time, these are learned emotional expressions. And we learn that if we express those emotions, that somehow those emotions paint us or depict us as being weak, okay? And the truth of the matter is that's simply not wisdom. Now, there's lots of words for it. People call it toxic masculinity, toxic patriarchy, and all of those different things. But this idea that young boys aren't supposed to cry, that young boys aren't supposed to express their emotion, disappointment, or anything else, they're just supposed to man up and toughen up, is part of the problem. It's part of that emotional wiring. So then what happens is we grow up hearing that. And then when conflict arises, our limbic system, the emotional control center of our lives, it shifts into what we've talked about before, this freeze or flee response. Their silence isn't rejection. That's not how we want it to seem. It is how it comes off. But what happens is men actually get overwhelmed. And as a result, they withdraw, and it feels like the safest thing to do, because to not withdraw, to express your emotions and all those other things, if you've been wired to think that that is somehow weak and makes you less than, that doesn't feel safe. Any men out there who agree with this, just put a 1 in the comment section. If I'm coming down your row and you like, yep, that resonates with me, just put a 1 in the comment section, so I know that what I have experienced and what the men I've talked to have experienced is true. See, if you don't say anything, then this won't escalate. So if I just don't say anything, and I used to be that way, I used to fail so many times. Some of it was because of my personality, but in my mind, when we would be having an argument, a real argument about whatever stupid thing we were arguing about, I would say, I'm just not going to say nothing. And I promise, the more you talk to, the more you explain, the angrier I got. And the more I said I wasn't going to say nothing, it felt safe not to say nothing, but then I would just explode. And then once I would do that and escalate the thing, I simply made it worse. Rather than just saying, hey, I feel, or knowing how to use all those correct statements, I didn't know how to do that. And so what felt like protection for me on the inside looked like abandonment to you, because you would say, you can't just cut me off. You can't just decide to stop the conversation whenever you want to. And you were right, but that's what I was doing, because that felt safe to me, to just say. And I used to say to you, I would say something and go, that's all I'm saying about that. End the conversation. Oh, that's it. That's the end of the conversation. I would shut down. Not only was I shutting me down, but I was shutting you down, because that felt safe. It wasn't right, but that's what felt safe. Anybody out there resonate? I got some ones coming through here. And when a man doesn't have the emotional vocabulary, the emotional intelligence, or the emotional fortitude to express how he's feeling, shutdown becomes the only language that he knows. And that is a poor language to build a relationship.
Now, this is important because I read these notes like 5 times today, right?
Yep.
But actually hearing you say this, something clicked for me that has never clicked before for me in my life.
That's why we do this. That's my second petty. That's why we do this.
No, but I'm really trying to have a serious moment here.
Okay.
In the whole time I have known you, right? Mm-hmm. I have never considered that you would be overwhelmed by anything. So I never even had you're like, it's like we laugh at the house that we think you can do anything, right? Mm-hmm. So the only thing that would come up for me is that you were being a jerk, because I didn't even consider that you could be overwhelmed by what was happening here. Mm-hmm. That actually is really blowing me away, to be like that you, Edwin Strickland, have felt overwhelmed. Absolutely. And that what I thought in that moment was you just deciding to control it was really saying, I don't have the bandwidth to deal with this right now. I think that's really interesting. I don't know if anybody listen.
Well, and sometimes the feeling of being overwhelmed is not always like I can't take it. It's the overwhelming feeling of like, no matter what I do, it ain't good enough. A lot of men who love their wives, who really want to take care of their wives, even if they miss the mark on accident or purpose, and it comes into an argument, if they're honest, if they have the emotional language to talk about it, they feel overwhelmed because they don't feel good enough, like they didn't do good enough, or they didn't do enough. So what happens is when they shut down, it doesn't appear to their partner, the person they love, that they're shutting down because they're overwhelmed. It's like he's being an a-hole, or he's being a jerk, or he's being mean. You know, that whole thing of me saying to you, okay, I don't want to talk about it no more. That's it. That's in the conversation. We ain't talking about this no more. It comes off as extremely dismissive. Hear me when I say that. I get it now. It's extremely dismissive, but it was the way to protect it, because I'm like, if we keep going, we're going to end up in a place that I don't want to be in, because I don't want us to blow up at each other. So I'm just going to shut it down because it felt like protection.
And then the Bible says the thing that you fear is the thing that comes up on you.
Yep.
So then what ends up happening is that we did end up blowing up because I'm just really not wired to be dismissed and not respond back. Right? Because so I think that's really interesting. So I don't know if anybody is like,
but you actually did try to shut down a little bit. I mean, you would shut up for a little bit, but then you go out and then you come back because you shut up until I can't or
because
don't.
What would be happening when I was in the room, when I would leave the space, is it would be like, well, who does he think he is that he gets to control the flow of our conversation?
Right.
I'm not through talking yet. I have something else to say. So yes, I definitely can see this. So I think it's really interesting. And I wonder if any of the ladies have really heard this, that the shutdown is not, it can feel like punishment. It can feel like rejection, but it may not be that at all. It may literally just be, I am overwhelmed. I am afraid of failing, and I am unsure of how to navigate the moment. You're not absent, it's that you're overloaded. And because most men grew up not being able to express their emotion, even admitting that seems like weakness.
And especially if you're in a situation, and not everybody's in this situation, but if you're the man and you're the breadwinner, you know, there are other added stresses. Not that women don't have them, but sometimes men have to learn emotional intelligence. And until recent years, it's not something that I heard directed toward men. That it wasn't this idea of, as a man, how do you become an emotionally intelligent being so that you can have a conversation with another emotionally intelligent being? And that's not to say that all women are at the top of emotional intelligence, but by nature, women are taught to talk about their feelings more than men, which typically leads to the idea of at least practicing emotional intelligence more than men.
This is so good because I feel like that this conversation is really bringing up something it's so different than just reading and studying the notes, because while you're right, women are taught to talk about their feelings, but women are taught to talk about their feelings with other women, not their partner.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Women talk about their feelings. So then that's why because women are actually told, keep the peace, keep everybody happy. It's not that big a deal, right? Don't be too much. Don't be emotional. Don't be dramatic, right? So what happens is that most women have to learn. I had to learn to be able to bring all of my feelings and emotions and real thoughts into the conversation, right? Because women are conditioned to give that stuff. I love this. No, women are groomed to keep the peace. They're groomed to de-escalate, groomed to ignore that something makes them uncomfortable, groomed to just accept it and deal with it. So often what happens is that instead of expressing that we're disappointed, expressing that we're frustrated, expressing that we are afraid, we absorb it. We anticipate moves. We anticipate moves. And if you think about this, we did have some arguments because you would be frustrated at work. You would then come in with this energy, right? And then now I'm anticipating the mood, right? Which is now creating an escalation, right? And what happens for a lot of women is that they overfunction emotionally, but they're not communicating the emotions that they feel.
Man, that anticipating mood piece used to, and I didn't understand it then. I see it now. Literally, I could come home and have been frustrated at work, but be so happy to be away from work and be home now. But I had the energy from that. But you then anticipated it, because then I would say something and you would like almost try to beat me getting mad. That's what it felt like.
No, I did.
I don't know if that's true.
You get mad. I did. I used to be like, because you're not gonna be mad at me first,
right? So
you're not gonna be mad by yourself,
right? So you would anticipate that I was gonna be mad, so you would get mad first, and then I would get mad that you were mad because I'm like, why you mad?
But I would feel like this: if you were happy to be home, why didn't you leave the energy that you felt at work outside the door?
Yeah, I didn't even know that I was bringing the energy home.
Why didn't you come home with some happiness and enthusiasm? Because I don't know if anybody's ever been married, but in our marriage, it looked like this. He come in, and he already got what we call in our family resting strict face. All the Chase, Caleb, they got it, where they look like they're mad when they're not. You look like you mad. We all know you well enough to know how you move when you're mad. And I say, babe, are you okay? I'm fine. Okay, we gonna wait a few minutes. Babe, can I get you anything? No, I'm good. Oh, okay. Is something wrong? Is something wrong? No, nothing's wrong. So then I am thinking in my mind.
So after the third time, I'm like, man, are you wanting to pick a fight? I've told you I don't want anything. I told you that I'm fine. And by that fourth time you come there, you go, what, you gonna act like this all day?
Right. Like, you just gonna act like this all day? Right. But here's two things that happened for us. You started stopping. You started stopping in the park to swing before you came home.
So I tell guys that.
Yeah. So you could dump all the thing. And I remember when I stopped being responsible for your mood.
You stopped anticipating.
But not just I stopped anticipating. Even when you came home and you were in a bad mood, I would be like, "Are you upset with me?" And you'd be like, "No." And I'd be like, "Well, whatever he mad at me, it's not my problem." Yeah, right. And but I also
had to stop over functioning emotionally.
But I also had to get out of the space, because I do think that because I care about you. If you don't tell me that you're mad at or frustrated or aggravated at someone else, right? And because, let's be honest, I am the center of your world. I can only assume that you are mad. I'm not trying to be funny, but I think that every woman feels that way. Like, if you're mad at home, who else would you be mad at besides me? Because I am the center of this story right here. That is definitely, this song is not about me. But I think the truth of it is, even now, there have been some times where I've watched you be frustrated about stuff, but I actually have to typically put myself in another room until you're better, because as long as I can see you like that, because women are fixers, I want to fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
And even if it's a situation where it's not that you see me frustrated with something else, but even if it's you and I are frustrated, women have to be careful not to shut up so that they try to soften the conflict. You know what I mean? I think a lot of women do that. The women that I talk to when we counsel,
no,
it's a lot
of things. I don't even know how you don't do that. I don't know how you
men don't.
What?
Men really don't. Men really don't do that. Most men don't think. And hear me out. Most men don't think. We don't go, well, I'm going to shut down because I don't want to make her feel bad. Men shut down because I don't want to feel bad. Women say,
what?
I'm trying to help you now. And I'm not lying to you, Junior. I'm telling you what I know. Most men think I'm going to shut up and not say nothing else to her. Not because I don't want to say the wrong thing to her. Maybe I don't, because I don't want to ruin a relationship, but not saying anything makes me feel safer. It's about me. Where most women, they tend, in my observation, they tend to shut up because they don't want to do something to the other person. They do everything they can to soften the conflict. They silence themselves in order to maintain stability in the relationship. That's not why most men be quiet. Most men be quiet for peace. For yourself. Yes. For our own peace.
And that's why we need chairs and a couch. That's what I'm talking about right now.
It's for our own
ladies,
peace.
I need y'all to talk to me, because I'm not even, I see what
now, if
you're
I'm
saying.
wrong, y'all come on and tell me I'm wrong. Every man come on here and tell me I'm wrong. Say it's just you, Edwin, you just crazy. And I'll take that. But I'm telling you, most men shut down because shutting down brings me peace.
So I'm shutting down trying not to make you feel bad.
Yeah.
And you shutting down so you can feel better.
You want to soften the conflict. I want you to be quiet so I can be at peace.
Ooh, child.
Now, if I'm wrong, y'all say something in these comments. They quiet over here tonight.
Somebody else just said, woo, child. I don't even understand what we are doing, right? Well,
The men ain't saying nothing tonight.
No, a bunch of men said
Oh,
peace. They're saying no lies, right? People saying right.
Oh, okay.
Some women, Scotty said, I'm a woman, but he's describing me, right? Oh my goodness, this is so crazy. Like literally, if I decide that I'm going to stop talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am going to stop talking because I want to soften the blow. Mm-hmm. That's just the truth. Mm-hmm. I'm going to soften the blow.
If I decide that I'm through with this conversation, it's because I'm tired of having it and I want peace. And the only way to get peace is to move on to something else. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. So, okay.
Now the truth of it is, I have learned.
I wish we had a referee here to in a striped shirt to come in.
I have learned that is wrong. That's what I'm saying, though. I'm not here to say that's right. I'm saying that is actually wrong. But until I was taught differently, until I gained some emotional intelligence, I was like, that is not the way that is not conducive for building a good relationship.
So I know you don't like when I do this, but you know, when I hear this teach, I incorporate my whole life. Mm-hmm. This soften the blow. Mm-hmm. I don't just do that with you. I typically do that with people that I love.
Most women do.
I literally am thinking sometimes my kids are saying something to me and I'd be like, I could flame their tail. I'm just going to be quiet because I didn't even realize, because I am not a person who is afraid of conflict, right? But I do realize that I am a person who overfunctions emotionally in relationships that I love because I'm always trying to soften the conflict. So I'm not.
I see two people. One person said, I'm done talking means I don't want to deal with this anymore. That is a form of peace. Another person said, I shut down to not hurt her because if I hurt her feelings, then peace is far away. So it's still a thing of I'm looking for my peace.
I don't even know what to say after this.
Here's the thing. Silence, though, is not absence. Silence is exhaustion. Most people who go silent, whether it's a man or woman, it's not about I want to be absent from you. It's about I'm exhausted. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of going through this same situation. I'm tired of talking about the same thing. I'm tired of talking about the same old argument we have every single time over the same old things. Ought to be getting better, but they're just getting worse. Same old things. And then what happens is when that silence is there, it does create distance, at least emotional distance. And when these go unspoken long enough, the pressure starts to build in the relationship. And then that's when you see the explosion that comes. And eventually it comes and it's a release of everything that has happened. It's like when you and I used to say to our kids, we don't wait till you do 10 things wrong and then wig out on you. We're going to talk to you about it's going to seem like we're nitpicking, but we're going to talk to you about everything that happens because we don't want this thing to build up and pile up and then you explode. And you talked about that in one of our relationships 101s before about just how that's not productive.
Well, it's interesting, the comments of the women. Okay. Like Heather pulled a couple comments. Can you pull up Heather's comments? She's had two that I think are like in the last 3 or 4 that she's had that I think are really good. She's kind of like, the truth is trying to soften it until I'm done. Because I think what happens is that when you're trying to soften it and you're absorbing it and stuff, and it's like the other person doesn't get it, or they don't care, or they don't care how much you're softening it, or it feels like they don't care. It feels like that they're willing to let you keep handling it, and then you just wig out and then what happens typically is that then people go, you crazy, you just want to fight. No, I actually don't just want to fight, but I am tired of being the only one fighting.
And that is literally in the notes, what you just described. It literally says she's not angry because she wants to fight. She is tired of fighting alone. And that's what I think men don't get sometimes. We're just looking for peace. And looking for peace, men are willing to avoid the problem, where women typically are seeking resolution. Now, I ain't saying that's everybody.
No, I think for the most part, for me, there is no peace until there's resolution.
And for me, peace was sometimes you not talking about it.
Yes, but I think some of that may also go into the thing where we talked about waffles versus pancakes, right?
Yep.
So you could waffle it, and
Yep.
for me, it's a pancake. The syrup is
Yep.
everywhere. What are we talking about?
And for those who don't understand, we used an example one time, and we used the example of how people function, and that some people function as waffles, some people function as pancakes. As a waffle, waffle has these indentions in it, these little squares or whatever. And when you pour syrup in it, you can literally pour syrup in just half of the waffle, and the other half can be perfectly dry. Well, in the pancake, when you pour it in the middle, it just spreads everywhere. And so there are some people who can operate in the context of a waffle mind state, and others who operate in the mind state of a pancake. A lot of men can operate in this waffle mentality, especially when it comes to things like that. That's not to say everybody are all things.
Right. It's
where
never.
Women do seek resolution, and sometimes men just feel like, okay, enough time has passed, it's over with.
Yes. Oh, this is okay. So let's talk about nervous system reality, because here's the crazy thing. We're trying to get peace two different ways, and both our nervous systems is going crazy trying to get it.
Yeah. So here's the deeper truth. Conflict triggers the survival brain in different ways. And all of us have a survival brain. Men often default to flee or freeze. Women often default to fight or flight. Okay, this kind of intensity thing where men tend to shut down. Neither response is wrong. Both responses are natural. But hear me. Both responses become destructive when they remain unmanaged.
That's good.
So it's not that my flee or freeze response is wrong. It may not be that your fight or flight surge is wrong. What is wrong is when I can't manage, where I'm shutting down on everything, or when you don't manage and you're trying to keep the peace so much you shutting up about everything, because eventually those two things collide and cause an explosion.
I think it's really interesting because you say women often default to fight or flight, because really in my mind, shut up and shut down are two totally different things, right? To me, if I shut down, I don't care.
Yeah.
So
it's the song When a Woman Fed Up.
When a woman, if I shut down, like to me, it's like you want me still fighting. You want me still saying, babe, listen to me, talk to me. Because if I get to the point that I shut down.
Because if you shut down, what you are looking for is peace. And women who look for peace will look for peace away from anything that's causing drama.
No, that's facts.
That's facts. I know what I'm talking about. That's facts. You don't want a woman to shut down. You may want her to shut up, but you don't want her to shut down. Because if a woman shuts down, she's done. Now, a woman to say, I ain't talking about that no more. Give her 5 minutes. See, you back talking again. When she stopped talking, that's the problem.
No, that's real.
I know.
That's real. Because I'm not thinking about this just in terms of our relationship. I'm thinking about this in terms of relationships. That when I am, baby,
even woman to woman.
Absolutely. Baby, when I shut down, baby, you could fly through here. You could fly through here.
You could fly.
You could fly through here, and I wouldn't even look up
and catch a unicorn on the way out.
Right, and I wouldn't even look up. Right. No, this is really good. Is this making sense to y'all? Right. No, this is really, really helping me. Right. So I love that you say that neither response is wrong, because I think it helps us from in the moment as we're learning to break this cycle, as people are learning to break it, to judge what the other person is doing. The person is doing what they are doing because they are in flight. And here is something Pastor Tony did teach us, right? He didn't use these words, right? But he did teach us that when we see the other person, now we would understand is in their survival
state.
That the person who is not needs to take the lead.
Yep.
The person who is not, which means somebody got to get mature enough to not be in the survival mode.
We used to say it like this in our relation. You know what I'm about to say?
Yes.
I ain't gonna say the word, but we used to say it like this. Somebody got to be the bigger ninja.
Somebody got to be the bigger ninja.
We didn't say ninja.
Right.
Somebody's got to be the bigger ninja. Okay. If I see you, but again, it takes emotional intelligence.
It does take
emotional intelligence to be able to recognize that you may be in a fight or flight stage,
and that if you stop talking,
and that don't mean it because of that I got to get in the flee or freeze state now.
Right. And that if you stop talking,
yes,
it's going to escalate it for me. Right.
Yep.
And that if you shut down, and maybe if I give you a few minutes, we can come back and talk. But if I keep pushing, it's going to be the same. Everybody just type in the notes, say, help us grow up, Lord.
Yeah.
Just help us grow up.
But these are the two, when we talk to people, and I tell people all the time, when I get ready to counsel them, I don't want to just talk about your problems. I want to give you tools, because if I give you the proper tools, you can construct a solution for any problem.
That's good.
But the issue is, a lot of times people go to counselors. I ain't got nothing wrong with counselors at all. But people go to counselors and sometimes they're just rehashing the problem. You actually need tools. I had to say, if I was going to be married to you long term and it was going to be happy, I had to develop my emotional intelligence. So I signed up for classes. I read books. I read it. I did enough of it that I was able to actually teach it to somebody else. And they was like, yo, you need to teach this to other men, which is how I got into teaching that very first emotional IQ class.
But let me tell you what I also think was also vulnerability, because you didn't want to fail. You took all those classes and I never knew.
I know.
I never knew you was in those classes until you were out.
Nope. I didn't say nothing to nobody. I was just like, this is an area that I need to improve. And how do I improve it? So I would be trying out all the stuff they say and be failing at it. And I would go back and read it. And finally, I remember one of the first times I got it right, I was like, yo, this really works. Not only did I preserve how I felt, you also went away feeling good. It was like, that's a win-win situation. Now, have I been perfect at employing that? No. And I can tell you that sometimes in high stress situations, if I'm not careful, I will default back to strict, right? But that ain't what I want to do. I want to always be in Edwin mode, right? Because Edwin mode allows me to function as a more intelligent being and not just somebody who's going off because I'm trying to protect my peace.
No, that's really good. When I was thinking about that, I was thinking when you're in Edwin mode, you're actually in what I would say chase mode. I feel like Chase is so good in emotional intelligence, and like he said to y'all for years, like, this is all you have to do to get. He was like, this is all you have to do to get mom to calm down. All you have to do is let her know you heard her.
Can I tell all the men the worst thing they could ever say when they recognize their partner in survival mode?
Go ahead, help them.
You need to calm down. In the history of the world, telling somebody to calm down,
who is already worked up,
has never worked.
It's just never going to work.
It just never works. Even though you want them to calm down, but telling somebody you need to calm down, and I used to do it all the time.
You did.
And my thing was, if you calm down, you could listen. And if you
oh my God, you used to say it just like that.
And if you listen, we could get past this. But that was not the way to do it. And I know, because a lot of dudes still do that stuff because they lack emotional intelligence. I'm telling you.
No, let's talk about the shutdown versus blow up cycle. No, because the truth of it is that if you say calm down, baby, you almost guaranteed a blow up.
Yes.
Right. No, it's just almost like I was at 3 when you said calm down. I'm at 23
it has
now.
Just the opposite effect.
No, it has just the opposite. No, Scotty said it presses the big red button. Women have a big red button on the inside of us. And if you tell us to calm down.
Do you know why men tell you to calm down?
Because you want peace.
Because we want peace. Now, it ain't the right way to get it. But we are telling you to calm down because we want peace. That's what we're looking for.
My God. My God. Okay, the shutdown. Are y'all getting something from this? You ought to tag somebody if you're getting something. Give some hearts, give some fire. All right, the shutdown versus blow up cycle. Mm-hmm. Now that we understand emotional wiring, that somebody is in freeze, somebody is in fight or flight, right? Let's walk through the cycle most couples fall into, not because they want to, but because they never understood what was happening underneath. Okay, it starts with something small, a tone, a question, or a misunderstanding. And most often, it is a question that's a misunderstanding with the wrong tone. That's actually what it is. It's the trifecta, right?
Did you mean to leave that toilet up so I could fall in it again?
Because I'm trying to understand.
Because I'm trying to understand. Although it's formed like a question, you know what's coming next.
Right. So a step one, a minor issue triggers an emotional need. Okay. She seeks clarity or connection. Her tone may sharpen because she feels unheard. His nervous system interprets the intensity as danger, so he shuts down. She feels him withdrawing, and her anxiety spikes, so she escalates. He feels overwhelmed and further retreats, and she eventually gives up and shuts up. And then 7, emotional distance grows, and the relationship feels less safe each time the cycle repeats.
My God, you need to just walk through that just one more time.
I am.
Walk, and call them out. Step one. What's step one?
Step one, a minor issue triggers an emotional need. Step 2, she seeks clarity or connection, and her tone may sharpen because she feels unheard.
So whenever this minor issue comes up, it triggers a need. The need that she needs, that no matter what's going on, that we're going to be good. We're connected. She seeks that connection. Her tone may sharpen, at least maybe the tone, because we're talking about tone, because she's feeling like she's not being heard. But then that triggers something in him. What triggers it in him? Step 3.
Then step 3, his nervous system interprets the intensity as danger, so he shuts down.
In his mind, he go, here we go again. We finna have another blow up. I'm gonna be on the couch again, or we're gonna have another fight, or something else. It's gonna be not some couples. We say they shouldn't do this, but they're gonna go another 2-3 days not speaking to each other. So he interprets that as danger. So to get rid of the danger, he does something stupid, which is to shut down.
And then she does something stupid because step 4, she feels him withdrawing and her anxiety spikes, so she escalates.
So he's trying to get away to preserve peace, but she sees that as you're trying to abandon. So I'm finna fight for this because that's what I do.
Or fight you.
But
it's gonna be some.
I'm gonna fight for this, or I'm gonna fight you. But it's gonna be some fighting going on. And then
so step 5 is that he feels overwhelmed, right? And retreats further. And then step 6, she eventually gives up and shuts up, right?
Because that step 5 is, I've talked to so many couples, and we've never done this just because of our personalities, I think. But I've talked to couples who said they got mad. Somebody who was on Facebook the other day, somebody said, what's the longest, it was in one of the men's group. They said, what's the longest you've ever gone without talking to your wife after an argument? Mine was like 30 minutes tops. 30 minutes tops. And that may be because you went somewhere. But other than that,
because you gonna talk to me.
Absolutely.
You're gonna talk
but
to me.
But there are couples. One guy was like 2 weeks. I can't imagine being in the house with the same person and not having a conversation with them for 2 weeks. But people do that. And all that does is increase the disconnect between them longer and longer and longer.
And so then what happens is that both people start to feel unsafe.
Yep.
Not only does she feel unsafe, he feels unsafe because when she brings up something, he says, here we go again. And she goes, he doesn't listen to me. And so it's like, you feel like because this was our real thing. You felt like I always wanted to argue, and I felt like you never wanted to resolve anything, that you just wanted to control how the argument was going to go.
And on the surface, both of those look true.
Yes.
Because people say things like perception is reality. Our perceptions of both of those were true. It wasn't at our heart, but it did show up that way. It showed up like you always wanted to argue. It showed up like I always wanted to not resolve anything and just move on and not talk about stuff.
Well, but also you can learn not to do this, because I feel like where emotional intelligence came in for you, I feel like what you're really good at doing right now, right, is that I think you typically catch it. You may not catch it at step 3, which is nervous system interprets intensity as danger, but you almost always catch it at step 5. If I escalate, you almost always now remind yourself that the way to get me to calm down is to engage.
Not to say calm down.
Right, not to say calm down, but to actually engage.
Yeah, and there's a proper way to engage. And so I learned part of that is being able to place not your needs, but to place yourself in another person's perspective, to see it from their perspective. And if you can, and literally, if you can see something from another person's perspective, you can truly understand it. You truly can.
Because the one thing that we've really worked on is that we don't have to agree with each other's perspective in order to understand each other's perspective.
But you have to have some degree of emotional intelligence to be able to do that, so that you don't just have blinders on and only can see it your way.
Only can see it your way. Yep. I love what Tracy Morgan says. She says, when I stop talking and shut up, my husband won't let me not talk to him. Your husband and my crew right here. No, we talking because we go together. We go together. All right. So one thinks that they're preventing both people feel misunderstood. But one thinks they're preventing conflict by being silent, and the other feels abandoned by the same silence. Did y'all hear what we said? The same silence
creates two different.
One person thinks that they are preventing conflict and preserving the relationship, and the other person feels abandoned by the same silence. If this relates to anybody, can you put a 7 in the comments if you know what we're talking about? If you've ever been the person that your spouse was like, you can't just keep shutting down like that, or if you have ever been the person who shuts down and shuts up until you don't shut up. Could you put a 7 in the comment? Because I think it's also so important for people to know is that nobody knows how to love perfectly but God. Yeah. And all the rest of us have to learn how to love well. We have to learn how to love well. And just because we love someone doesn't mean we know how to love well.
Absolutely.
Right.
And here's the key. If you do not develop a new strategy, the cycle will repeat itself, and it will repeat itself until the relationship becomes so emotionally numb that you may be together, but you're not together. And it gets you into that silent breakup mode we talked about last month.
And this is really interesting because what we find a lot of times when we're talking to couples, that when it goes back to the silent breakup, right? When the woman shuts down in the relationship, the man is often shocked when the woman wants a divorce. Because
he thought her shutting down, not the shutting up piece, he thought her shutting down was giving him peace.
And then she like, well, I don't want to be here anymore. And he like, how did we get here, right?
Because once it shut down, he was peaceful.
Yes. Yes. So here's what's so crazy, guys. This is in the Bible.
Yeah.
This is in the Bible. So we want to talk about the Bible, what the spiritual roots and the scriptures
has to say about it, because the shutdown blow up cycle is not new. In fact, we see this emotional pattern in scripture. What do you mean we see this in scripture? It is actually in scripture. When Adam sinned, what was the first thing that he did? He hid. He shut down. He hid. He withdrew and he distanced himself. God asked him why he did it in Genesis 3:10. What did he say?
I was afraid, so I hid.
I was afraid. I was looking for peace. I found out I was bucket naked and I was afraid. I wanted peace. When God questioned Eve, look at what she did. She explained. She defended. She detailed. She went through the emotional processing. She said it was the serpent who deceived me and I ate it. Why? She was trying to keep the peace.
Think about this. So from the onset, men and women have handled conflict differently.
Yes.
They have handled trouble differently.
Yes.
Right? Now, what did God say in James 1:19?
He said, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger.
Say it again.
He said, be quick to listen.
Quick to listen.
That's that emotional intelligence. Be slow to speak. That's that emotional intelligence. And be slow to anger. That's that emotional intelligence.
We were working on something today. It wasn't an argument
at all.
We was working on something today.
We intense people, but it wasn't an argument.
No, we weren't even disagreeing at the time. You were reading something and I wanted to say something, but I was practicing in that moment to say, you don't need to interrupt. Let him finish. Let him say the entire thing before you say anything back.
Quick to listen.
quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Mm-hmm. And my whole point, because I had read this scripture right here, is that if I will practice it over something that I am not emotionally invested in, then it is easier to do when I am emotionally invested, right? So that was why I was practicing it. That if when you're reading something, like even something like you come and you read a Facebook post, right? And it's this tendency to be like, oh, I read that, or what did they say, or whatever. Nope, I'm going to practice being quick to listen, so slow to speak, so that when it is about something that matters, right, I have the ability to keep that pause button pushed.
Somebody asked a question. They said, can you repeat step number 7? Here's step 7. We said that once you go through those processes, that last thing that happens is that emotional distance grows, right? Because now both people have become silent for different reasons. And the relationship feels less safe every time that cycle repeats. Every time that cycle repeats. In the same way that you want to make deposits into the love tank or love bank, whatever you want to call it, every time you go through that pattern of shutting down on each other, the relationship itself suffers and it grows more and more distant.
That's 7, right?
That's number 7.
So then Proverbs 15 has given us a plan for this.
What does it say?
It says a soft answer turns away wrath, right? So the gospel invites us into a new emotional pattern, one built on connection, honesty, safety, and grace.
Oh, that's so good.
Everybody say grace.
Grace.
Everybody say grace.
Grace.
One of the things we really had to learn is that we tend to want grace for ourselves and judgment for others.
Yes.
So here's what this means. I tend, as a human being, to want you to judge me by my heart.
Come on.
While I judge you by your actions.
Say that. Say that again.
I tend, as a human being, if I have not trained myself differently, I want you to judge me by my heart, but I want to judge you by your actions. Here's a great example of this, right?
Grace.
Just the other week, when you did leave the toilet seat up,
I did.
Right?
I did. I knew you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, no, but you brought it up first.
I just want to do it before you did.
Whatever. The point is that I had to pull myself back because what I wanted to do was judge you by your action. Why would you do this, right? But I literally had to say to myself, taken from the great Ralph Marlowe, based on what you know about Edwin Strickland, would Edwin Strickland intentionally do that to you? And then I just went, nope, and you got to get over it.
I love how you said it too. You said, babe, you just got to do a better job.
No, because I was working through.
And then I said, a better job of what? You said, when you go to use the restroom, you got to let that toilet seat down. I said, did I leave it up? You said, yes. And I fell in at 4:00 in the morning. I said, babe, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. But the way but rather than coming in and screaming at me about doing it, it took a whole different turn. But again, that's that whole slow to speak, right? Quick to listen, slow to anger. You demonstrated that, and it really worked out for us.
It's also because it was 4:00 in the morning and you were asleep, and I had opportunity to process.
How long was you in the bathroom before you came back into the bedroom?
No, I literally didn't tell you till the next morning.
I know. I said how long? No. How long was you in your process before you came back?
No, I processed in the bed while I was trying to decide if I was gonna kick you in the back or not. No, but I'm saying I think this is no. You just have to do a better job. Is a soft answer, right? Yes.
Yeah.
And so we have this opportunity to build something new on connection and honesty and safety and grace. And here's the question that I need everybody to be able to ask about their spouse, because this is an important question, and your friends and everybody else in your life. What Ralph Marlowe said is that when I look at the sum total of who I know you are and what you feel about me, are you trying to hurt me? And I think the truth of it is that if you cannot honestly answer yes to that question, then there is some other work you need to do. You need to go and get somebody else. But even in our craziest days, I never thought you were intentionally trying to hurt me. Right. So I think that that's really important. Yeah. So now we're going to talk about how modern research aligns with scripture. We're going to What am I in the
No,
wrong
you go.
list?
You are.
Okay. We're going to step into the research on relationships, particularly the work of Dr. John Gottman. Put his name in there, Dr. John Gottman, Gottman. He is one of the leading marriage researchers in the world, and we find 4 emotional patterns that predict relational breakdown with extraordinary accuracy. He identifies the 4 patterns that kills relationships. He actually calls them something I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, because when they show up consistently, they signal relational danger. And 2 of these are central to this cycle. But here's the good news. Once you know this, you can disarm them.
Yeah.
So let's explore them in a deeper, more practical way. Number 1, stonewalling. Emotional shutdown. That's what we just talked about. The shutdown. Stonewalling is, that's his word for what we have been calling the shutdown. And it's when someone becomes so emotionally overwhelmed that their body literally goes offline. Has anybody ever experienced their body going offline? You just like, it pulling away, going silent, shutting down mid conversation, staring at the floor. I can't talk about this right now, or leaving the room without explanation. Yeah. Have any of you ever done that? Right? I'm not talking about what you have had happen to you, right? I am talking mid, and in fact, you can really tell when somebody's body has gone offline. I've done this sometimes where literally you don't just stop mid conversation. It's I stop mid sentence, like just mid sentence. I'm done. I'm walking away. I'm going out. But he says that this is a dangerous pattern habit to get into. What's actually happening inside? The nervous system is in fight, flight, freeze, overload. The brain has shifted to survival mode, not thinking mode. And the partner sees distance, but their body feels danger. Men tend to stonewall more, not because they don't care, but because they were socialized to avoid emotional engagement and conflict. So when emotions arise, shutdown becomes their safe place. The spiritual parallel is Adam, who hid in the garden because hiding feels easier than facing the emotional moment. So if there is an infection of stonewalling, a poison of stonewalling, what's the antidote? It's not talking more. It's not talking louder. It is taking a structured break with a guaranteed return. We've taught this before in a different way.
Absolutely.
That listen, when you feel yourself overloaded and shut down, is that you need to say to the person, I need you to give me 15 minutes, 20 minutes in order to be able to reset. And this is important to avoid rejection. I promise I'll be back.
Yeah.
I promise that I will be back.
Yeah.
Right? Because stonewalling breaks a relationship when silence is indefinite, but it heals the relationship when the silence is temporary and communicated with safety, right? How many of you like really understand that? Like if your spouse or if your spouse said to you, I need 15 minutes, you could give them 15 minutes, right? If they promised they were going to come back. Now, you can't use the 15 minutes to get out the conversation and then go in there and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because that's just not going to work, right?
And then, so we're talking about these emotional styles. So you want to avoid stonewalling, okay? You also want to avoid this second thing, which is criticism and escalation. Criticism happens when someone expresses a need as an attack instead of a request. Criticism happens when someone expresses a need as an attack instead of a request. It shows up when a partner points out flaws in a way that actually blames the other person's character, not just their behavior. It often sounds like you never listen to me. And what do we say about the words never, ever, and always? The moment you use those, you disqualify yourself because nothing but Jesus is always. Okay, you can't say never because if you tell me never in an argument, I'm gonna tell you the one time I did it, and now the conversation is void because you're wrong. Right, and so
because you've gotten a little distracted on being right instead of resolving the issue.
Because you don't. That's why you don't use those kind of words.
Don't do that.
Because it's criticism and it's criticism and it's also escalation. So you don't do that. Okay, you don't say you never listen to me. You always do this, and you don't ask people the question, "What's wrong with you?" What's wrong with you is a trigger. It is as bad as you need to calm down. But here's the deeper truth. Criticism isn't usually rooted in anger. It's actually rooted in fear. It's actually rooted because people are overwhelmed and they don't have the ability to have their needs met. Okay. Here's the escalation point. When criticism goes unaddressed, it is often intensified into escalation. That is what pushes people into escalation. What happens? Their tone increases, their volume rises, intensity builds, anxiety spikes, all kinds of bad things happen. Escalation is not necessarily someone trying to dominate the moment. It is someone trying to desperately to be reassured, to be seen and emotionally heard.
I think it's really important. One of the things that we talk about in the notes is that an emotional flare someone sends up. It's an emotional flare that says, I feel unheard, I feel unseen, or I feel alone, right? Most people who criticize, they're not trying to attack. They're trying to express pain the only way they know how.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And so you have to remember that criticism is about an attack. Gentle expressions invite connection. It's why it says in Proverbs that a soft answer turns away wrath.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the antidote is what I'm feeling is, what I really need from you is, I'm scared we're disconnecting. Can we slow down? I feel disconnected. I need a moment with you to talk through this.
Mm-hmm.
You hear the difference in that, as opposed to you don't ever listen to me. No, hey, babe, I really feel disconnected. I need a moment for us to talk through this. Y'all hear the difference in that, right?
And if you haven't been trained somewhat in emotional intelligence, to say to your partner, I'm scared we're disconnecting, doesn't seem natural for men. I don't know about women. I'm just saying that's not a natural. Most men, I think, would tell you that that's not a natural part of their language. That has to be something that is learned, just like the opposite was learned. To be tough, to man up, to not show emotion. To say to your partner, hey, I'm really feeling disconnected. I'm scared of what's happening to us right now is not language lots of people use.
So we all have to practice the antidote, right?
Yep.
So then number 3, defensiveness. Defensiveness is the natural response to criticism or perceived attack.
Yep.
It sounds like that's not true. Well, what about you? It's not my fault. You're always blaming me. Have y'all ever done any of those? I have. Defensiveness is basically saying I'm too afraid or too ashamed to take responsibility.
That's what defensiveness really is. And I put that in there because that was one of the things that I learned in emotional intelligence, that when you become defensive to feedback, even if it's critical, and even if it's what's the word I'm looking for? Even if it's criticism as opposed to true feedback, when you become defensive, it's really because you're saying I'm afraid or too ashamed to take responsibility. Because if it's really not what you're doing, if someone says you're doing something and it's really not what you're doing, you don't have to have an emotional response to it. That's part of being emotionally intelligent, not responding to things that are not who you are.
Well, it's really interesting because yesterday I made a Facebook post where I publicly say, after I had privately said to you,
Sure.
I privately said to you that you were right and I was wrong. And my friends keep asking me why I'm using that particular language. And I keep saying, because I am tearing my ego down, that I am less than if I am wrong.
Yes.
I am not less than if I'm wrong. I'm just wrong.
People say, oh my God, I can't believe she said she was wrong. She was.
I was wrong.
What's the big deal about? We've all been wrong.
We've all been wrong. But I think the thing is that we have to disconnect being wrong from our ego.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have to disconnect that being wrong is fear of being rejected.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So defensiveness is basically saying I'm too afraid or too ashamed to take responsibility. And what does it do? Defensiveness escalates the conflict because it shifts the focus from resolving the issue to preserving oneself. Y'all need to write that down.
That's what it does.
When I get defensive,
yep.
I am now not looking to resolve our conflict. I am now looking to protect myself. And I will protect myself at the expense of the relationship. So we really, really want to work on that. What is the antidote? Taking even 1% responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I can see how that impacted you. Let me try again.
Yep.
Responsibility invites safety, and safety invites healing. I just had an aha because one of the guys on the thing yesterday said that he was teaching his he was teaching his son to make sure that the woman that he dated could apologize. I'm not saying that this is true, but this is just what I'm thinking based on everything that I see here, right? Is that if admitting that we're wrong, right, now makes us think that we are less than for being wrong, right, then we're going to fight to appear not to be less than, which actually makes us look more less than if we just admitted that we were wrong.
Right. Absolutely.
So we're trying to preserve something. So really it's like the emperor's new clothes, right? We're trying to convince you, I'm trying to convince you that I'm not less than, instead of just admitting that I'm wrong, which then we could just move on.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. If you have trouble admitting that you're wrong, just come on with this journey with me and admit that you're wrong.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Listen, and then the last one is about flooding. And flooding is just this idea that literally everything is happening so fast on the inside of your body. It's like an emotional breaker has been tripped, right? And you can tell when flooding is starting to happen because you'll feel your heartbeat start to rise. You will feel your body heat begin to rise. Sometimes people even start shaking. They their chest gets tight, and they start to see things in tunnel vision. They have difficulty thinking clearly because now they're in the protective mode, and they're in this mode of trying to protect themselves. They feel trapped. They feel attacked, even if they aren't being attacked. And I think there's many times I think we can all say that we have felt attacked, even when someone wasn't attacking us.
Have you ever felt attacked when the person wasn't attacking you?
If you've ever felt attacked, even though now you realize that you weren't actually being attacked, put an 8 in the chat.
I need to put like 888 plus 8 plus 88.
Flooding is why some people escalate, and it's why some people shut down. They have different response to it. Here's the thing. You cannot argue your way out of flooding. You cannot explain your way out of flooding. And you definitely cannot just calm down your way through flooding. Flooding has to be regulated, not pushed through, and it gets regulated because of emotional intelligence. You learn how to regulate yourself through it. Listen, here's the thing you got to understand. There are many things that happen when people get in a position of either flooding, they're in a state of stonewalling, they're in a state of criticism, or they become defensive. All of those 4 emotional states happen. Sometimes you can have a couple of them going on
at the same time.
But what happens is you have to understand that behind every blow up is really just a protest for connection.
I love that.
Behind every blow up really is just a protest for connection. People yell because they feel alone and they don't feel heard. And then behind every shutdown is a sense of failure. I don't want to fail, so I'm just going to be quiet. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I'm just going to shut up. I don't want to disrupt peace. I'm just going to be quiet. So people end up withdrawing because they're scared and they can't get it right. They're afraid that they can't get it right. People aren't fighting each other per se. They're actually fighting for emotional safety. Whether you shut down or you shut up, that's what you're fighting for. The blow up says, don't leave me. That's what the blow up is really saying. Because people who don't, it's like, I saw a video of a lady. She took all of her man's clothes and was like throwing them over the balcony, all his shoes, his J's, his jeans, everything. And then they showed another lady, and she had folded up nicely all of his clothes, stacked all his shoes in shoe boxes outside the house. And people was like, the one on the left, he can come back. She ain't done yet. The one on the right, she done. He can't ever come back. Why? Because the blow up says, I really want to save this, right? It's really telling you, hey, I don't want to blow this. And then on the same token, the shutdown, right? When men are shutting down, men are really saying, I don't want to be judged. I don't want you to think I'm weak. I don't want you to think that I'm less than. And so then we have to learn how to break this cycle.
So we're going to give you 2 tips to break the cycle,
Yep.
okay? Okay. So I'm going to do the one for men. You're going to do the one for women, okay? So for men, my brothers, the goal is never to feel overwhelmed.
Yep.
It is to handle overwhelmed differently.
Say it again one more time for the people in the back.
The goal is never to feel overwhelmed. It is to handle overwhelmed differently.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of just shutting down, would you say, I'm overwhelmed, but I'm not leaving you. I just need a moment.
I just need a moment.
How many of you, if you have somebody who shuts down, if they said that, it would really put you at ease? especially if they came back and finished the conversation. If they said, I'm overwhelmed, but I'm not leaving you, I just need a moment. Take a break responsibly, not to escape, but to regulate, and always come back, because silence without return feels like abandonment. You break the cycle when you bring words to your emotion instead of disappearing behind them.
Wow. You break the cycle when you bring words to your emotions
instead of disappearing behind them.
I know people who, at least when I was younger, I know people who really liked each other and they actually broke up because it was easier to break up than to say, hey, I'm overwhelmed. I'm not leaving you. I just need a moment. It's like, you know what? Just forget it then. And people, break up over things like that. So that's for the men, right?
That's for the men.
All right, ladies, here's what you got to do. If you want to break the cycle, when you speak early instead of waiting until the moment you're emotionally exhausted. I know that a lot of women do that, but you gotta not always try to keep the peace so much that you just bottle everything in until you explode. You got to express those needs before resentment grows. You got to use gentle starts instead of urgent starts. You got to assume curiosity, not conflict. Okay. Your voice is not too much. Women need to hear that. Your voice is not too much. It's information that your relationship actually needs to thrive. He may think that he wants you to be quiet, but in reality, the only reason he wants you to be quiet is because he's afraid that something's going to be exposed. It's going to show him that he has areas he needs to grow in. And that's not always easy for men.
So how can couples break the cycles? We're going to give you some safety rituals. Weekly check-ins.
Yep.
Code words for overwhelm, right? Boundaries for conflict. We don't yell and we don't leave without a return time. We don't yell and we don't leave it without a return time. And then reassurance. I'm not leaving you. I'm resetting myself. I'm regulating myself. So what are we going to do? We're going to establish some weekly check-ins when we aren't upset, right? How do you think we're handling conflict? How do you think I'm showing up? We're going to work through that when we're not upset,
when
right?
we're not upset. The worst thing you can do is to try to work through that. Well, how do you think we're handling this then? No, don't do that.
Don't do that, right? And then you need a code word for overwhelm. What is something that you could say to each other that if one person says it, you both agree to respect that it means you need a pause?
And it needs to be a gentle word. I'm just going to throw that out there. It needs to be a gentle word.
And then we need boundaries. Like we don't yell and we don't leave without a return time, right? And then we want to do reassurance. So weekly check-ins, code words for overwhelm, boundaries for conflict, and reassurance, right?
I think one of the things that we use a lot, we don't use it hardly ever now because we just don't need to. But early on, we had to say it a lot. We used to say, I'm not your enemy.
I'm not your enemy. I am not your enemy.
It was like, hey, listen, this is getting tense. I'm not your enemy. We're on the same team.
But you know what? This is funny because now I can see when flooding would take place. Because if one of us would say, I'm not your enemy, and the other would say, you sure seem like it. That's because you're flooding. Because you can't even regulate. Right. You can't even regulate anymore, right? Yeah. Okay, so take a moment this week.
Be like, I'm not your enemy. Well, I don't need no enemies if this is what it is. We was
crazy. Praise the Lord. That's why we can help you if you listen to us. Okay, so this week we have some questions that you can ask, and we'll also put this on the Edwin and Sean Strickland page, and then we can if you are in marriage school, we can add these in marriage school, right? Okay, so this week, what are some questions we're going to ask each other? What does shutdown feel like for you? What does escalation feel like for you? What helps you feel safe during conflict?
That's a great question.
And what do you need from me when you're overwhelmed?
Those are great questions.
And then you create a plan for that. So I need to know what shutdown feels like for you. You need to know what it feels like for me. I need to know what escalation feels like for you. You need to know what it feels like for me. What helps you feel safe during conflict? What helps me feel safe? What do you need when you're overwhelmed, and what do I need when I'm overwhelmed? And we work on it.
That's so interesting too, because one of the things that you have really worked on, and I do appreciate it, is I tell you all the time, you can ask me anything. But when we talk about escalation, it feels like escalation to me when someone says I did something I didn't do it. So, like for instance, you could ask me, you could say, "Did you leave that pan in the sink like that?" And I could be like, "Oh no, that wasn't me." But if you say to me, "Why'd you leave that pan in the sink like that?" That feels like it escalated already because it feels accusatory instead of a question. And so I'm telling you publicly that I appreciate the fact, whether you think that's good or not, I appreciate the fact that you have been really good about asking me those things, because that does help me not to just shut down and not be like, "You want to fight? I ain't talking to you about this."
You know what? I just want to say publicly in front of the people, because I want to put this on things since we're going to work on something. I personally do not like when you say, "I just want to fight," because you don't like the way that I'm engaging. How do you think you can say that better if you used all your emotional?
I don't think you just want to fight. That's what my old mind says.
No, you actually say that sometimes.
I say you just want to fight.
You say that sometimes.
Well, the next time I say that, will you call me out on that?
How can I call you out?
You can just say, "Hey, okay."
How can I call you out? Do I need to text you?
No. If I say you just want to fight, you can say to me, "Is that what you want to say?" Because that'll remind me.
Okay. All right.
So
we'll report back.
Yeah, we'll report back. If I say that, if I say, "Oh, you just want to fight," just say, "Is that what you want to say?" Or you can say, "Is that what you mean?" Something like that. Just ask me a question.
Okay.
Well,
all right. We gonna see. Right. Okay. We hope y'all got something from tonight. We see that a bunch of y'all hung out with us for a long, long time. We will see you back in January, but you know what I always want to know. What is your big takeaway from tonight? Now, I'm going to frame it differently. What is the one tool you're going to implement? Let me ask you this. Is this a tool that would work?
What's that?
If you were starting to shut down, and if I said to you, "It's important to me to talk about this, but I can give you some time if you need it," would that help?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to practice that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to practice that.
And again, it goes back to tone, because I'm thinking about us, right? I'm thinking about us, right? And if you say, "Well, you clearly need some time," then that doesn't feel the same.
But aren't you still responsible for managing yourself?
I am still responsible. What we're talking, but you're asking me what I needed, so okay. I'm telling you what I need is for the tone, because we say tone's important, right? So say what you said. How would you say it?
I would say it seems like you need some time.
It seems like you're getting overwhelmed.
It seems like you're getting It seems like you're getting overwhelmed. Would you like me to give you some time?
I like that. That's so much better than saying something like, "Well, you're clearly overwhelmed. When you want to talk about it?" that same thing, different tone.
Okay.
So yes.
Well, for the record,
we go report back.
No. For the record, you're now supposed to ask me, because it's a question for each other. Okay. It's a question for each other.
Okay, what's the question? How can I ask it? I'm gonna make sure I ask it the right way.
You could ask me, what could you do when I'm escalating?
Oh, what could I do when you're escalating?
If you would touch me when I'm escalating, because that's always going to ground me that we're on the same team.
So I'm going to ask a follow-up. In which way would you like for me to touch you? Hold your hand on your shoulder.
If you put your hand on my shoulder, if you grab my hand, if you say,
that's not going to seem patronizing if you're talking, I'm going like this.
It's all about tone. It's all about how you do it. Oh. If you do it like this, well, that's gonna sound patronizing, right?
Okay.
But if you say, if you go, "Listen, if my wife is escalating, the fastest way to ground her is for me to touch her. It's for me to hug her. It's for me to put my hand on her shoulder."
Don't do this.
Not unless you want your finger. Okay. No, but I'm saying, okay. And here's the thing. But do y'all see what we're doing? We're actually talking about something real while we're in a good mood, because it's a lot easier to work through it when we're in a good mood.
Yes.
Right? Yes. So y'all could practice that, right? you could laugh at us and then lead in to your own question about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
That is how you do it.
Absolutely.
Right? So, okay. Siobhan said the goal is emotional safety. Tool that I will implement is to ask if we can have a conversation and come up with a plan based on tonight's class. That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
All right.
Okay.
So we hope you guys have a Merry Christmas. We love you so much. We hope you'll actually do this work. And let me tell you something. This work right here, you could do this work with your kids.
You could do it. Yeah. It's not just for married couples.
You could definitely do this with your kids, right? When you feel like your kids are shutting down, when you feel like your kids are escalating, how your kids feel safe during conflict. What do you need from me when you're overwhelmed? Because we actually have a kid that doesn't yet know they need a hug when they're overwhelmed, but when they are overwhelmed, they absolutely need a hug.
Yeah. And they may even resist it.
And say things like, you shouldn't touch me while I ask you not to.
But the moment that
you get them that 30 seconds in,
everything breaks down.
Yes. All right. So we hope y'all have a Merry Christmas. Thank y'all for hanging out. 70 people hung out. 71. Thank y'all so much. Leave a comment, heart, fire if you didn't do that. And we would love if you tag the Edwin and Sean Strickland page. No, I'm talking to them. If you have something great, but you tag Edwin Sean Strickland page instead of us individually, that will get more traffic to that page, right? Is there going to be a replay? Yes, but here's what you need to remember, Ryan. Facebook now takes the replays down. After 30 days. So if you go to Fellowship of Champions on YouTube, you can watch all of the messages. Yep. So go to FOC NW. It's right.
And if you don't subscribe to Fellowship of Champions yet, then you should subscribe to Fellowship of Champions on YouTube. You should
subscribe.
FOC NWA on IG, TikTok, and YouTube.
And in fact, if you were blessed today, that's what we want you to do. We want you to make sure you follow us on all platforms. The Edwin and Sean Strickland
page. That's your seed tonight.
That's your seed tonight. The Edwin and Sean Strickland page, the FOC NWA on YouTube and on I was about to say and on Clarissa because she spent so much time over there, and on IG and the church's page, Fellowship of Champions on Facebook.
I think somebody put it up there. There you go. Yep.
Yeah,
follow us on all social medias. That's your seed tonight. If you got anything out of this at all we're asking you to do is to sow a subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, follow, like, whatever it takes on all of our social media platforms.
Okay.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Listen, you guys have a Merry Christmas. We love you. We'll see you guys in 2026 with Relationships 101. Some of you will see many times before then because we have something happening all throughout the week. All right. Bye-bye.